from a match to start. So, how to be a D&D Dungeon Master Guide by War Game. We're just going to hit the high points. Breaks down the essentials. You don't have to know every rule. I 100% agree with this. I agree that, like, you don't have to know every rule. Get the fundamentals down. You don't use every rule. And a lot of times, you'll probably have a rule lawyer there that you can refer to, and it's okay to pause the game to look, to see what the rules are. Start with a pre-written adventure. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with starting with a pre-written adventure. You can start however the way you want to. I will say this much, though. I do think that reading a pre-written adventure or starting a pre-written adventure is not bad. Definitely read one. Definitely look into one. See which ones are good. Curse of Strahd's a good one. Storm King Giant's probably a good one. Read it. See how they structure the game. So that way, especially if you're new, you can understand a flow of which the game can be run or pushed. But sometimes pre-writtens, they can teach a lot of bad habits. So I would say look at the structure and play off of the structure. The reason I say they teach bad habits is they have so much description that's just very unnecessary for the game. There's a lot of fluff in there. Plan only as much as you need. This is good. This is good. You may hear some things called like over planning. And honestly, there's not, just plan however you think you need. If you feel like you're over planning, don't worry, especially if you're new. You'll catch on to what you need and what you don't need. So everyone's different as a DM. Some people plan out, they put items in their battle with their enemies. They'll put different stats, or they'll make things more complicated in combat, or they'll have things set up. They don't use the random roll table. They'll have pre-items set up, or they have encounters built differently, or RP, or they set up NPCs differently, and they need NPCs in certain spots so that they can direct the players in certain areas. So like, plan until you feel comfortable. You'll never feel 100% comfortable, especially whenever you're new, because you never know when things are going to go. Just be prepared to improvise. Improvising is probably, if not, in my opinion, one of the most important things to have as a DM. Discuss expectations with your player. Yes, this is a session 0. The most important session of all. Tell your players what you expect, and also what I like to tell players. I still tell players this, even though I've been DMing for like 10 years. I will tell my players, like, hey, I'll try new things. I'll get things wrong. Just roll with the punches. If I do something wrong, if I for one moment, and then like 5 minutes later I fix it, like, I'm not gonna go back in time and retcon something. Just roll with the punches. I'll retcon things, especially if it's like right then and there. If I try to do something and someone's like, hey, you're doing something wrong, I'll be like, oh, my bad. All right, let's do it like this instead. Right. But I'm not gonna, if we've been playing for 3 hours and I realized I did something wrong an hour ago or 30 minutes ago, I'm not gonna go back and fix that. So let your players know what kind of DM you're gonna try to be, but also tell them, like, hey, there's gonna be, oh shit, we're gonna start a match. Hold on 1 second. Let me pause this. Ultimately, it's good to lay down the foundation that you're new to the game, and everything is everything's going to be up to the air, especially if you're a new DM. Just let everyone know, and ask what your players may have. Kelly, what's going on? How you doing? Work with your players, not against them. This is one of my favorite things to say about Dungeons and Dragons. One of my absolute favorite things to say about Dungeons and Dragons is it is a collaborative storytelling. And I think, like, players who play against the DM are super annoying, but DMs who play against the players are worse than those people, because as a DM you have control over everything. You can hear the players' plans, you can hear what they're going to be doing next, and you can easily counteract against it. So there's a lot of integrity as a DM to kind of just sit there and like stick with the plan that you had originally made up with in your head. So I agree with this 100%. Work with your players. Help your players create a story. You guys are creating a story together. We know as DMs, whether you're new or not, we know that what we are doing essentially is we are making sure that the players look cool. We're making sure that the players are champions. We're going to challenge them along the way. And if the dice rolls deem that they die, then the dice rolls deem that they die. But we're not going to make it hard on them on purpose. We're not going to set them up on failure on purpose. And that's something to take into account as a DM. Choose a style that suits you. Yeah, just like a player, you know how I kind of went over in the past, like there are different types of players and they go about things in different ways. The same thing with being a DM. So there are DMs. I know if you are wanting to be a DM, you've probably seen a podcast or a YouTube or a TikTok of, you know, or even if you've watched my stuff as a DM, I'm very animated. I think a lot of people who stream or make content for Dungeons and Dragons tend to be very animated DMs, and it's just good showsmanship. But when you're just playing among friends, there's no need to force yourself outside of your comfort zone. For me, of course there are tons of spectrums of different types of people who play Dungeons and Dragons, you know, but I think it comes down to two types of players. In reality, you're either a storyteller, so you kind of just say what's happening. You say, oh, I open the door, or you open the door and there's enemies, you can attack. Or, you know, you're an actor and you like to act out every NPC and make a show of everything. I've seen both play out on screen. If you want to see a version of a DM that is more of a storyteller, look at Harmon Quest. Harmon Quest is, you know, that's a fun show to watch, and the DM is very much a storyteller, and he's a really good DM. So yeah, find a style that works for you. And you may not know what it is at first, but just go with whatever's comfortable. And honestly, sometimes just fake it till you make it. If you want to play a certain style, just go into it. A lot of times what I will do, my favorite thing to do as a DM, and this is kind of fits into my style, to give an example, I try to make myself look as silly as possible. I make myself look as silly as possible so people feel comfortable doing things and they don't feel as bad whenever they think that their idea is stupid. At the end of the day, you're sitting at a table with hopefully a bunch of your friends or a bunch of like-minded people, and you want to have fun. And that's really what should matter. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about trying new things. It's all going to come to you, and I'm sure you'll pick it up. And listen to your players' feedback. Spend some time after every game, and don't so much ask players how did you do, which is an okay question to ask from time to time, but ask players what they liked, what they enjoyed, and ask them what they were thinking, what their characters were thinking at the time. Get to better know your players. It's okay to be meta. You don't always have to be in character all the time, and just remember, until next time, play nice.